Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. It is August 10th of 2022, a Wednesday, and we wanted to talk to you about saving the world. It's a really interesting subject and a really interesting question because, well, don't we all want to do that? Don't we all want to be the hero like in Mission Impossible or in Lord of the Rings? To be that hero that goes out and saves the world. The person that's going to be remembered in history forever, whether it's in books or songs and movies, that will always be known as that hero having done that heroic thing, saving the world. You know, it would be fantastic to think that that's something that happens in reality. But it does actually happen in reality. Our governments, our leaders, they do try from time to time to be that hero, that good guy, and to save the world, to be remembered in history for having done the right thing. But what happens when they don't? What happens when they just want to be remembered in history, but they don't want to do the work? Well, we're going to talk about that today, and I think you'll find it to be very interesting. Now, before we get started, we do also want to mention, if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we welcome you. We thank you for being part of our audience. We do appreciate that. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all social media that the internet overlords will allow to hear what you have to say in your tweets, your chats, and your phone calls. Because we believe in the First Amendment, not just for Americans, but for anyone in the world to speak about what they think is happening in their nation to their lives. And we hope that you will join us every Sunday at 2:30 p.m., whether your government agrees or not, whether the internet overlords like it or not. We want to hear what you have to say every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm sure you're wondering, what do we mean? I mean, there's fantasy. Mission Impossible, Lord of the Rings. What does that got to do with reality, the real world? Well, I think every country wants to be seen as the good guy. I think everyone wants their leaders to be the heroes of their story, their lives, and that they're going to do the right thing, that they're going to increase the net peace and stability in the world to save the world in their lifetime. I think that's what we all want, no matter what country you may be in. That's what you want to see, or at least that's what you hope people are striving to do. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. The real big question is, what happens when we have individuals, whether as leaders of our government or members of our government, that are, well, they want to be the hero. They want to be remembered in history as the good guy, but they don't want to put in the effort. They don't want to do what it takes to be that good guy, to actually save the world. Because sometimes that means they won't be remembered in history. What happens when someone puts their ego ahead of the good of the people in the world? I think it's a very interesting question, and it has an application in what is happening right now in the world to each and every one of us. Let me explain what I mean. So to do that, let's go back in time a little. Let's go back to 2016, where we had written an article about how safe is the world after the Iran nuclear deal. See, in 2015, the end of 2015, the Obama administration entered into a deal, the Iran nuclear deal, and we've been speaking about this significantly since about 2014. But at that time, in 2016, then Secretary of State John Kerry made an important statement that actually had an impact across the rest of the world. It was in 2016, January 21st, 2016, that John Kerry on CNN made this statement. CNBC. I think that some of it, the Iran nuclear deal, the money, the billions that was released to the nation of Iran, will end up in the hands of the Iran Revolutionary Guard or other entities, some of which are labeled as terrorists. Now, this is an important and incredible statement because at the time, the Obama administration was being hailed as heroes, that they had saved the world, that they had increased the net peace in the world by stopping Iran from gaining a nuclear weapon, which Iran itself denied and said they were going to make a nuclear weapon no matter what. But more important than that, and what seemed to escape most in the news media, was John Kerry had just admitted that the United States increased the net destabilization of the world. They had ruined the peace in the world by funding global terror. The United States, through the Iran nuclear deal, directly funded terrorist organizations, and many, many lives were affected by that for years and years to come. It's a horrible thing to think about. But not everybody in this story is in fact a hero. Some of the people who were involved in this were anything but the heroes, as we would later find out. In fact, talking about John Kerry, who currently works with the Biden administration at this time, he's still not a good guy. You may not recall that, but back in, it was April of 2021, the New York Times came out with a revelation that shocked a lot of people. That at the same time that he was making negotiations with Iran, he was throwing one of our allies under a bus. That John Kerry, a manner that would not help the peace of the world. He wasn't being a hero. In fact, on April 27th of 2021, we had this to say about that. The New York Times and their editorial staff, not just a writer, not just a reporter, not just the information, the editorial staff, the New York Times, sought to bury this information. They did not want anyone to notice it. They wanted the American people to glass right past it. They threw in some critical information that had nothing to do with what was being said and said, oh, and we know John Kerry gave away a U.S. ally. They committed treason against the United States. They endangered the security of a sovereign nation, an ally of the United States, and therefore put the United States in jeopardy if that ally were to find out and to react to it. And in April of 2021, many people were saying, John Kerry has to go. He has to be fired. That this was an act of treason against the United States. And of course, the news media covered that story up. They moved on to other news, and they said that wasn't really important, and it was already water under the bridge. John Kerry was supposed to be remembered as a hero, as the then Secretary of State that ushered in the Iran nuclear deal, and the deal was good, and so we have to keep it in our memories that way. That's the way they wanted to write history. That's not what history was, but that's the way they wanted us to remember the history. Kind of scary when you think about it. And I wish that the story only ended there. So let's move forward in time. Let's go to 2022. In fact, we're going to go to May 24th of 2022. You may not recall what was happening at that time just about 3 months ago, but it's important to remember it. Back 3 months ago, we found out that ISIS was plotting to assassinate a former president of the United States, in particular George W. Bush, and they were trying to do that in Dallas. That's devastating news. That's horrific news on multiple levels. Not only is that an indictment of the open southern border of the United States, indicating that Kamala Harris had failed in her duties to be the czar of the southern border, to secure that and to limit the number of illegal aliens coming into our nation, highlighting what many individuals have been saying for years, that an open border is a national security threat. Well, no, this was much more than that. This was a terrorist organization that previously had been defeated up until the fiasco that was the Afghanistan withdrawal, the retreat from Afghanistan, running away under the Biden-Harris administration, abandoning thousands of American citizens, as we have now found out. Thousands. We have seen Joe Biden and the Biden administration lie to the American people, changing the number of Americans that remain in Afghanistan to this day by hundreds at a time over and over again. And now they won't even speak about it. But that wasn't the only cost of that retreat. In fact, it also reinvigorated Al Qaeda, the Taliban, and ISIS in Afghanistan, with the addition of enough weapons and money to be able to create a brand new army in the world. Many of those weapons, much of that money, also fell into the hands of ISIS, a terrorist organization that we've been fighting for some 20 years, that are dedicated to destroying America and Israel, our only true ally in the Middle East. So to see this, to see that there are agents of ISIS that have infiltrated the United States, that were seeking to bring in 4 assassins through the southern border because it was wide open to assassinate our leaders, that's a terrifying thought. This sounds like it's out of a plot that you may see in any kind of spy thriller movie of the modern day. That we're seeing our agents try and defeat these infiltrators, these spies, these terrorists who are seeking to harm our nation and the world. They're the bad guys, we're the good guys, and they have the upper hand, and we are in trouble. And we have individuals who are working in our nation against us, that hidden agent that is actually helping them by giving those foreign rogue terrorists money and power and information that they need to harm the rest of the world. And I wish we could say that this was the only time that we got to see that, because we know that even as NBC News reported, that there was this plot to assassinate, and the FBI was on the job, that they found out ahead of time and they stopped it. We thought. You see, they didn't stop it exactly, because we found out today, August 10th, that Mike Pompeo was also a target of an Iranian assassination plot against that was also targeting John Bolton. So it wasn't just John Bolton, a former ambassador of the United States to the UN. It wasn't just Mike Pompeo, a former secretary of national security for the United States. We're seeing many people are continuing to be targeted for assassination by terrorist organizations and a nation, Iran, that leads the charge of global terror, and someone who has been funded by the United States in the amount of hundreds of billions of dollars. In fact, looking at the article, which comes out of Yahoo News, we can see that this was an action by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, that they're the ones who are targeting and put a target of $300,000 against John Bolton to have him assassinated, with a target of $1 million against Mike Pompeo. Now, you may or you may not like John Bolton or Mike Pompeo. I could care less. It's not about their politics. They were leaders in our nation. They are the good guys. Unless you believe America is a bad nation, that they are the bad guys in the world, and if you think that, you really haven't looked at the world, I believe. But the good guys are being targeted. They're under attack. When we have these infiltrators, these assassins coming to kill our infrastructure, and if they can reach former national security members, former members of the UN, former presidents, who else could possibly be safe? And I would like to say that's a terrifying thought. And thank goodness, it seems that our intelligence agencies, the CIA, the FBI, they are thwarting these attempts. And that's a good thing. And we should be happy about that. But is it the only thing that's happening right now? Why are they doing this now? Well, in part because there's another Iran nuclear deal that's on the table. You see, under the Trump administration, the Iran nuclear deal, which was just a verbal agreement between President Obama and the nation of Iran, that ended. And the Iranians weren't very happy about it because sanctions were placed against Iran because they are the global leader of terror in the world, because the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, Iran's homegrown terrorist organization, was leading the charge in creating, destabilizing peace around the world. And so President Trump said the United States won't pay for that. And he stopped the deal. But it was history making. And some people believe history is more important. The Obama administration and the Biden administration believe that history is more important than safety because they want the Iran nuclear deal back. They want to continue to fund the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and they want to make sure that they have the funds they need for global terror because history will say that the Obama and Biden administrations were the good guys. Because history will say that at least for a time, they were the ones who helped to save the world. At least that's what it seems like they're looking for. Because we know that for the last 18 months, the Biden administration has been desperately in talks with the nation of Iran to restart the Iran nuclear deal. And because the United States has been looking forward to do this, our allies in the European Union have been involved as well, trying to get the best deal possible. But Iran has been holding out because every time they have held out for the last 18 months, the United States has unilaterally given up sanctions. They have given into the demands of the Iranians without any preconditions other than being involved in the discussion about restarting the Iran nuclear deal. This has happened over and over again, and we have covered it many times on this channel. As of August 8th, Europe had made a final deal, a final offer, so they say. And they have presented it to the United States and to Iran and said, look this deal over. We think it's going to be great. This deal will give everybody what they want. Now, one of the biggest things that Iran wants is to be able to have the Islamic Revolutionary Guard removed from the list of terrorist organizations in the world where it was placed by the Trump administration. The Biden administration is not quite sure that they're willing to do that, although they are willing to have further negotiations, just so that they can get Iran to stay at the table to talk about the Iran nuclear deal. They're willing to negotiate on taking away the terrorist label of a world-leading terrorist organization, and therefore being able to receive money from the rest of the world directly. Can you imagine what happens when an organization working for Iran, not only being able to get funding from Iran, because they will be able, if the Iran nuclear deal goes forward, Iran will be able to sell oil again. They will be able to sell 1 million barrels a day. So they will get in billions of dollars back into Iran, on top of over $100 billion being instantly released and allowed to flow back into Iran. Over $100 billion instantly being able to fund global terror. Bringing us back to the same place we were in January of 2016 when John Kerry, a potential traitor, said this deal enabled the United States to directly fund global terror. Now, Iran, for their part, are still holding back because the United States is desperate. The Biden-Harris administration are desperate for any good news. They don't have it when it comes to the American economy or the world economy. Inflation is roughly 9%. Real world, it's about 25, 35, 45%, depending on the food item you're trying to buy. Our shelves in our stores are 15% empty. The United States is no longer manufacturing anything and getting everything from across the seas because the United States, under the Obama administration, became a service economy. So we are dependent on China a nation that doesn't like America and is currently in arguments with America over Taiwan, a nation we have been severely instructed not to defend. In fact, that's why when Nancy Pelosi showed up in Taiwan, China has decided to fire 11 rockets, 11 missiles over Taiwan at our allies in Japan, and also having exercises to threaten South Korea, letting all of Southeast Asia know they are in charge and the United States is too weak to defend our allies. It's a chilling situation to be in. But at the same time, the Biden administration facing this horror, facing the fact that the Ukraine is losing to Russia day by day and still needing billions upon billions in funds and weapons every day and still going to lose, well, that's just a hard pill to take. At the same time that the United States economy is falling apart because of the very same policies of the Biden-Harris administration. So they need to win. They need to win to take them through 2022, and they need to win for 2024 for any re-election hopes and being able to maintain power of the presidency. So that's why we're seeing Iran is saying they can wait. To look good in the history books, the Biden-Harris administration are giving away more and more of items that they would never consider giving away at any other time. That brings us to what we're looking at right now, that the Biden administration is in trouble. As reported by ABC News, sour views on the economy keep Biden approval on issues down. In fact, 2/3 of Americans think the nation's economy is getting worse. In fact, 62% of Americans disapprove of the job that the Biden administration is doing at this time. In fact, 69% of Americans think that Joe Biden is doing a horrible job when it comes to looking at the inflation. It's just self-evident. History is writing a story every day. But the story being written about in the Biden administration is one of failure, of ineptitude, of a government that cannot achieve any goal and having many goals before them. And we saw that when we're looking at the news media is trying to alter the way the history is being written. They're trying to make you feel good about things you really shouldn't feel good about. The Consumer Price Index came out today. And you may see many, many articles today saying that inflation is down. But that's not true. Because according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, it says very clearly in the very first sentence of the report, they state the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers was unchanged in July on a seasonally adjusted basis after rising 1.3% in June, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. There was no change. It is the same. Inflation hasn't gone down. It just didn't go higher. It stayed the same. In fact, if you go through the report, as we have, you will see that they say the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, and in fact, the majority of most Americans, you get a wage for your work, increased 9.1% over the last 12 months to an index level of 292.219. For the month, the index declined 0.1% prior to the seasonal adjustment. So we have an interesting scenario here. We have, one hand, news media that's telling us, no, Biden's doing a great job. He's doing better than you think he's doing, even as inflation has risen and stayed at all-time 40-year highs. At the same time, the world is becoming destabilized. It's less safe than it's been in decades. And we have, at the same time that China is threatening to take over Taiwan, as they are threatening Japan and South Korea, our allies, at the same time that Russia is threatening to turn off the gas in Europe, and for our allies in Germany, at the same time that they're conducting a war against the Ukraine, in the United States, Joe Biden is trying to look good in history books. He's trying to look good for voters. That's a weird situation to be in. It doesn't sound like most spy stories that you think of. It's not like anything in fantasy. And that's because, unlike in those fantasies, those movies and TV shows, the good guys in this case aren't that good. They're not that competent. And they're not trying to save the world. They're trying to save their paragraph in history. We know that the Biden-Harris administration has spent 18 months dedicated to getting the Iran nuclear deal done. They need some way to look good. Even though they've been selling the reserve, the United States reserve oil, to China for some unknown reason, even though they've been using the reserve to try and lower the price of gas by about 20 cents, even though it's increased by $2, they're looking for a way to get out. And the answer that they found is the Iran nuclear deal. You see, the Iran nuclear deal has one other benefit besides for Iran being able to get billions of dollars to be able to fund global terror. For the Biden administration, they have a victory because 1 million barrels of oil a day will be released into the marketplace if Iran is able to get that deal. Because the sanctions on them being able to sell oil to anyone except China, they're selling plenty of oil to China, but they would be able to sell 1 million barrels to the rest of the world. That would help our allies in Europe. That would help the United States, because the United States would buy some of that oil. Our allies in Germany would buy some of that oil. And that would lower the price of gas. Some would even say it could lower the price of oil to $80 a barrel, which would mean that the price of oil is only up 90% since the Biden-Harris administration took office. So this is a victory. This would be a massive victory for the Biden-Harris administration. They could say that they have fixed the economy, that one of the key problems, besides massive spending and printing money we don't have, energy costs would be able to be reduced. And they would be able to do it just at the same time that the global food shortage they have already warned us about would be kicking in. So that's something that's important. But it's not quite that simple. See, and I am quoting Business Insider here as they say, if a deal is hammered out, it would represent a major victory for Europe, which is facing a potential emergency this winter as it deals with shortages of natural gas. It would also lessen the pain when the EU bans on Russian oil products fully kick in December 5th, which would slash another 2.2 million barrels of oil per day off the market completely. So we know that at the same time that 2 million barrels a day will be removed from the market, but this could add 1 million a day. It's worth about $3 billion a day for Iran. Well, the hero would be the United States. We would be getting oil to our allies. We would be getting oil for our own consumers. We would be able to lower the inflationary impact of oil in the United States and energy costs. That would be great. But remember, this isn't just about oil, because it's also about funding global terror. You see, on the flip side, yes, we'll be able to lower energy prices roughly about $1 in the United States, but we would be funding $3 billion worth of global terror every day. Is that a trade-off we want to make? Is that the hero's story that we're going to tell each other? It is the hero story that the news media is trying to tell us right now. They're trying to give the Biden administration an excuse to accept the terms of the Iran nuclear deal as negotiated by Europe that helps Iran, that allows them to be able to create ICBMs and to continue to attack the United States both overseas and at home, to be able to try and kill what they call the great devil and the little devil, to attack our allies in Israel, and to ultimately attack the United States, something that the Iranian government has said for 45 years in a row, including today. They still want us dead. Whether they get this deal or not, they don't care. So is that really worth it? Is it worth it to get another million barrels, 500,000 barrels between us and Germany, to be able to get that and to lower the price of gas by maybe $1, maybe, to slow down the increase of inflation, not remove inflation, to slow down the increase of inflation that is still going to happen because of the food shortage, because of the excessive spending, because of printing money, because of the other problems in the Biden-Harris administration. To slow down inflation just a little bit, is it worth funding global terror and the deaths that go along with it? It's an interesting story. And it's an interesting way of looking at this. And we have to look at it from the beginning all the way through. The story isn't about the paragraph that's being written today. I don't know that the story that the Obama and Biden-Harris administrations want to see is the one that's actually going to be written at the end of the day. But I look forward to hearing what you think about this. What do you think is going to be the story? Do you think it's worth it? Is it worth it to start the Iran nuclear deal to enable Iran to be able to have global terror? Is it worth it to lower the cost of gas by $1 to endanger the future? Do you think that the Biden-Harris administration are heroes, or are they the bad guys in this story? We look forward to hearing what you have to say on this story, and we look forward to seeing you every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to join us in our live stream as we talk about this and many, many other issues. I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference. When you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares and your subscription, you make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you.